Caesar is in power, whether Boris Johnson is the Prime Minister or whether Keir Starmer is the Prime Minister. Caesar is in power whether Donald Trump is the president or Joe Biden is the president. Caesar is the system. Caesar is the bureaucracy. Caesar is the deep state, if you want to put it in those terms. Caesar is the power that exists to condemn, coerce, and control people.
So welcome again, Richard Abbott, for a second conversation here. Previously, we were speaking about the state of the world and the events that have, over particularly the last 100 years, have led to what seems to maybe be the end of Western civilization. Now, we don't know the timeline of that, but it does seem fairly imminent. I've also been speaking with Colin Triber previously, and so from those discussions, some of the key reasons for this end of civilization, the end of the world as we know it, might be that there's more and more demand being placed on our society systems, the structures that prop it all up. But at the same time, not enough people creating new solutions and systems to maintain that order to an appropriate degree within the chaos of the natural world. Two ways that could end. First of all, breakdown of the social and economic structures, caving under the weight of the demands that are being placed on it, or second of all, more control, more rules to follow in order to gain the benefits of that society, all enabled by technology, which will inevitably make broad stroke decisions that don't account for individual difference, which, due to the level of complexity involved there, I would argue is beyond AI's capacity. Now, neither of us want that to be the case, but I think we agree that it doesn't seem likely that there's going to be a better alternative at this point. So what to do about this, it seems to me, is to withdraw from the social world, it's taking the strain off, like we said, but also increasing the supply of the solutions to its needs by pursuing our own personal higher creative endeavors as individuals, and maybe as communities. That's a topic for another day. But first of all, is there anything that you would take issue with there, or anything that you would add, any glaring errors or gaps?
No, I think it's pretty clear that is where we are headed. Might be argued we're already there. I would perhaps just say it slightly differently, or emphasize a part of it a little bit more. The way I see it is that there is a war on against the individual. It has been decreed, by whom we not know, but we know not, but it has been decreed, has been decided and accepted by many that the individual is the root cause of all of the problems of the world.
Yeah. And
therefore, the whole narrative around the past 18 months, in fact, decades really, but the increasing narrative is collective good, individual bad, society good, individual bad, togetherness good, individual bad, group decisions good, solo decisions bad. And what we've seen in the last 18 months is just, to me, it's just an acceleration of this. I mean, rapid acceleration of it. It's been here for a while. I mean, it's ironic that actually, because so some people will say to this, well, hang on a minute, there's lots of people expressing themselves individually in the world in an individualistic way. Indeed, there are, in lots of areas that really do not matter.
Such as?
So we're encouraged to express our individuality in arenas that make no difference whatsoever. But as soon as we want to take an individualistic point of view about anything serious, no way, that is shut down. Right. So that's the root of it all. I think that there is a war on against the individual, and that's going to be a problem.
Okay, and just go back to your point, these domains that don't matter. So, how people present themselves. I've got pink hair, therefore I'm an individual. Is that the sort of thing you're talking about?
Yeah, I mean, so Silicon Valley started out as a group of libertarian anarchists, if there's such a combination, libertarians or anarchists, not wearing suits and being a bit scruffy, and they were individuals and free thinkers. But Silicon Valley is now a place where everybody wears jeans and a t-shirt and trainers. And if everybody wears jeans and a t-shirt and trainers, then there's no individuality whatsoever.
No, new uniform.
It's a new uniform. And this is the case in many areas of life where we are given, like you say, we're given the freedom to tattoo and pierce and ourselves and colour our hair and wear whatever we want. And that's all good. And I'm totally in favour of that. But it's really pretty irrelevant to the scheme of
Shallow.
things.
Yeah, shallow to where we need to be standing on our own, in our own ground, right?
Well, if it was an expression of a deeper form of individuality, it would be fine. But when you see the people who have the pink hair and the tattoos and the piercings and whatever being the ones at the front of the queue of shutting down alternative points of view, then you know really the individuality is pretty superficial.
Yeah, right. Okay, gotcha. Okay, so the war on the individual is the key thing here. And something that I came across recently, and it would seem a natural strike back for some people who see that there's more control, more oppression, more sameness being pushed out into the world. What I've seen referred to as extreme individualism as a negative. What's your take on that?
Well, there's a phrase called the Overton window, which some people will be familiar with. Okay. So, and it's a political idea, but it can apply in lots of areas. So here is what we can discuss, but here is what we can safely discuss, says the Overton window. Mm-hmm. The Overton window has been moved in the direction of group, society, collective, that kind of talk. Mm-hmm. So people that just used to want to be left alone and be their own selves and just do their own life are now seen as extreme individuals, rugged individuals, where actually they're just people who just want to get on with their own business.
Right. Okay.
So the Overton window has been shifted. But yes, of course, because the Overton window and the whole conversation has been shifted in the direction of the group, the society, the we, the collective, then there's bound to be a kickback from that. And there's bound to be some people that will say, actually, screw that. I'm going to now be hyper individualistic. So there will be people that will go to the other end of the spectrum. But a lot of people haven't moved. The conversation in society is what has moved.
Yeah. Okay. But the hyper individualism isn't a problem. It's just people stick to themselves and getting on with what they need to get on with. Is that what you say?
Well, there are two forms of individualism for sure. There is individualism as in, I'm going to do what I want, screw you, I don't care what the consequences are for anybody else ever. Mm-hmm. And maybe it's right to criticize that kind of individuality, but I'm not on about that kind of individuality. I'm talking about the individuality of everybody's unique, everybody's different, and therefore the ideas that are percolating in your mind are not the ideas that are percolating in my mind. What you need is not what I need. Mm-hmm. Your solutions are not my solutions. And that's the kind of individuality that is being rubbed out.
Yeah.
And that's what we need. That's what we need to have in our lives to live meaningful lives.
And it seems, and maybe this is inevitable, maybe not. It seems inevitable to me, at least from where I'm standing in my perspective, and who I am as an individual, but that by focusing on yourself, you are more valuable to that. I know you don't like the word collective, but the society, the structures, you're more valuable to it, perhaps in the form of these social endeavor, these creative endeavors you're pursuing. But in some way, it's a service. Some way that service becomes a natural conclusion if you're pursuing your own life, right?
Absolutely, it does. If you are the way to help, if you want to help anybody at any time, is to help in the way that you know how to. Mm-hmm. So take an example where there is, I don't know, where there's an accident and, somebody's injured. Well, the person who's injured doesn't need anybody to help them. They need the person who knows how to help injured people. Yeah. And that might sound crazy, but you get a lot of people, and it is a thing now in our society where let me help. Whoa, hang on a minute, mate. It's nothing to do with you. It's what does the person need?
Yeah, right.
There's a good meme about it somewhere out on the internet somewhere. Help! I need a doctor. I'm a doctor of philosophy. Well, you're no good to me then, are you?
Right.
Because I need a doctor of medicine.
Yeah.
So doing what we are meant to be doing, working with our skills, developing our individuality, is the way that we help. It's the way that we contribute.
Yeah, and this is leading to a lot of people getting into jobs even that they're not actually suited to because they feel some, I don't know, collective pressure to fulfill those roles. Yeah, so people working in the NHS who in care roles who don't actually care about people. They're more trying to soothe them. And obviously, that's not everyone in the NHS. I'm not saying that, but it's something that I've encountered.
This is extremely controversial. It ought not to be controversial because it's a statement of fact. I know it to be a fact. There are people, and I wouldn't say it's a tiny number. There are people who work in caring roles, NHS, care for the elderly, care, nannying, childcare. They don't give a damn about the people that they're caring for. They don't give a monkeys about them.
Yeah,
and that's because they shouldn't be doing that job. They should be doing a different job. So they're in the wrong place, and therefore that's not just a bad for them, it's a bad for people on the receiving end. Yeah, because they don't have any skills or are suited to that in any way whatsoever.
And there's probably a very big conversation as to why people end up in those incorrect roles, and if they were in the correct roles, they'd be extremely valuable to themselves and everybody around them. But there's lots of conditions leading to that. What I'd like to move on to, if we can, is that you've written about the social world in your book, Start Your Own Country. You refer to it, and I'm not clear whether it's it itself, the social world, or represented by Caesar. So I'd love for you to tell us a bit more about who or what Caesar is, first of all.
Caesar rules this world. Caesar is not a person. Caesar is an entity, a belief system, a power behind the throne. Caesar is in power whether Boris Johnson is the Prime Minister or whether Keir Starmer is the Prime Minister. Caesar is in power whether Donald Trump is the president or Joe Biden is the president. Caesar is the system. Caesar is the bureaucracy. Caesar is the deep state, if you want to put it in those terms. Caesar is the power that exists to condemn, coerce, and control people. It's the anti-individual power. It manifests through leaders of countries, but it is just as well present in revolutionary organizations, because many revolutionary organizations are just a case of, okay, we've overthrown the king is dead, meet the new king. Here's the new boss, same as the old boss. Caesar is the system, and it's the system that is the problem. It's not the figureheads at the head of the system. And the last few years should have confirmed this, because it really doesn't matter who you vote for. The system will engineer it so that it gets what it needs.
Yeah. Okay. And for those who are keeping an eye on the World Economic Forum and have thoughts about shadowy cabals who are pulling the strings behind the curtain, we're not talking about that here either, right? Talking about something more deeper beyond that. We're
talking about the power behind that.
Yeah, right. But these aren't people.
They're not people. It's a power. It's a belief system. It's, if you want to say, it's an entity, but it's a force that directs human beings to think, to deny their spiritual roots, to deny their individuality, and to herd them together for a control type agenda.
Okay. Would it be fair? Sorry, go on.
And it shape shifts. So it does. So it's nothing to do whether you have a Conservative government or a Labour government. It's nothing to do, really. I'm no fan of communism, but it's nothing to do with whether you have communism or capitalism, because it finds its way through either of them.
Right. Okay. Would it be fair to say it's a tendency that we fall into if we're not paying attention to what's going on in our lives? A good way to say it. And if there's enough people falling into that tendency unconsciously, then this is what results. Okay.
Yeah, absolutely. Because Caesar, the force, plays both sides of the coin, plays both ends of the spectrum. So Caesar is BLM, and Caesar is also the police that control the BLM crowds, because both of those are control movements. Neither of them are free movements. They're not freedom movements. They're control movements. They just seek to control different parts of society. That's just one example.
Okay, so that, would you say, is a problem? Is that the problem, or is it just something that is there and something that we can learn to deal with in a healthy way?
Well, it is so stitched in to our world that it's like, to identify it as a problem is like saying, breathing air is a problem.
Right.
Going out in the sun is a problem. It's so stitched into our world. And most people don't care, because Caesar is not trying to destroy us. Actually, on the contrary, Caesar is wanting us to be functional for him, but not too functional. So Caesar is all about. So Caesar provides benefits. Caesar provides public services and medical and hospital care and military protection and laws and social norms. Caesar provides all these things. So it's not crazy to say, well, actually, Caesar's looking after me. I mean, he is kind of looking after you, so long as you do what he says. So long as you be the person that he wants you to be. In
the same way that an authoritarian father will look after you to some degree, and must follow daddy's rules.
Yeah, indeed. Yeah, absolutely. So you can't escape from Caesar. You can't escape from the system. Even if you want to go off grid, okay, a sensible thing to do, you will never be 100% off grid. You might be 99% if you did really, really, really well, okay, although that would be extremely hard to do. But you will never be 100% off grid, because so long as you interact with other human beings, so long as you have to have any interaction with the system whatsoever, you will be under the influence of Caesar. And that's where you have to give Caesar his due, as it said in the book Once Upon a Time. Pay Caesar what is due to him, and the rest you can have for yourself. Okay,
so tell us more about that. What is paying Caesar his dues?
Recognizing that he rules. Just an example. It's metaphysical and it's a bit deep, I suppose. But example, right? If you don't like the system, you don't like what the system is doing to you and your friends and your family and your loved ones, you don't like the way that the system is directing society. Yeah, agreed. But give up trying to find some aspect of common law which enables you to live as a free man on the land. I mean, just pack it in, give it up, man, because Caesar will not let you do it. Caesar will not allow you to do it. It doesn't matter whether you have the law on your side or not. Caesar will never allow it. And you've only got to examine history, recent and old, to see that Caesar will simply not allow it.
No.
Simply will not allow it. Now, so what do? You give Caesar his due, so he will leave you alone. Then you can go and be a creative individual who speaks as whatever you want to say and do whatever you want to do, but you will have to give something of some kind, energy, monetary, time, something, to Caesar, because he will not leave you. He will not leave you alone.
Form of life tax, then, really,
if you like. Yeah. And the only escape from it is a purely spiritual escape. So if somebody wants to go down that road, then okay, fair enough. But you're in deep spiritual, esoteric, magical, mystical territory there. And most of us aren't going to do that. Most of us are just going to want to try to exist in some kind of way, and therefore we have to give some payment to Caesar, some acknowledgement that Caesar rules.
Okay.
It's not defeatism. It's not resignation. It's recognition of reality.
Yeah. Okay.
And the reason I say it is because an enormous amount of time and energy goes into I've looked into it myself over the years. I know plenty of people that have done it. It's the idea that you can drop out of the system. Everybody has ever seriously tried to drop out the system. The system will drag you and drag you back in again, sooner or later.
Mm-hmm.
So pay its due, be it in time or money or something, but not much. So you have to be, it doesn't require much. You pay its due, then you can have the rest of your time and the rest of your life and the rest of your money for yourself.
Okay. Would you be willing to share a way in which you pay your due to Caesar?
It depends on the person. It would be a very individual thing. Mm-hmm. It means accepting that you cannot expect people to take any notice of what you're talking about. Some people will. It's great when they do, but there's no way that you can expect the ordinary person to take any notice of really what is going on in the world. It's an absurd. I was out for a meal. It's the first meal I've been out to for quite a while, and so in an ordinary restaurant with ordinary people, and ordinary people surrounding us. Most people don't think there's anything wrong. Most people think that there's been this thing called a pandemic, but it'll be over soon. Life will go back to normal. Most people don't think there's anything up, there's anything wrong, there's anything bad, there's anything to worry about, there's anything to be concerned about at all. And there's no point taking their head and banging it into a wall to get them to crack their brain open and see. You can't do that. There's no point. It won't work. It's impossible. It's not possible. So we accept Caesar rules in that domain.
Yeah. Okay. So acceptance is you paying your due.
Acceptance is the paying of the due.
Right. Okay. Right.
One way of doing it.
Okay. But then the solution is then to withdraw from that social world, and perhaps even as much as you can without the body failing you, to withdraw from the material world, hey, and to go into a more of an inner world exploration. Is that right?
Yeah, but you see, I think it's a bit deeper than that, because I just think that it is not possible. The world is not perfectible. It is simply, it cannot be done.
No,
it cannot be done. Individuals can, and maybe groups, can walk a path towards perfection, maybe. In certain times in history, certain societies can be a little bit more perfect than at other times. But there is no way. To me, it is simply insanity to believe that we can remake the world into a fairer and more equitable and more and a place full of greater justice. This is insane. Because it will only happen when individuals themselves possess those qualities and values, and they patently do not.
No. And that can only come from a withdrawal from the collective, so to speak, and standing on your own sovereignty. And that's how we achieve this collective balance, I suppose, closer to perfection, but never quite reaching it. Is that what you're saying?
Yes, but I think any use of the word collective is pointless and meaningless. It is okay. It doesn't. I appreciate you didn't mean anything by it, but it doesn't. It's a meaningless word. Where is it? Show me it, because it doesn't exist.
So I suppose what I mean by it is the collection of systems and structures that prop up a group of people, no matter how big or small. So that there's some level of cooperation and harmony possible, as opposed to it being total separation, distance, and I don't know. My sense of history is inevitably warfare, small or large scale.
But this is where there's two types of individuality. There's the individuality where you say X and I say Y, and we don't agree, so we have to have a fight about whether X or Y is the winner. That's bad individuality. But the other individuality is, well, you've got X and I've got Y, and you need some Y and I need some X. So actually it is in our own interests to cooperate. And it is against our interests. It is crazy for me to fight you over X because you need some X and I need some Y. Mm-hmm. So it's not, and we don't have to have bureaucracies in order to enforce these things. We have to simply have, I appreciate we don't have it, but we have to simply have the awareness that you have something that I don't. And actually, if I destroy you, I'm cutting off my own supply of it. So I need you and you need me, and we all need each other.
Yeah, and we all deal with each other on an individual basis, one-to-one. Every moment is different, every decision is different, and that seems to me that's what you mean by start your own country. You are Indeed. The leader of your own domain. Absolutely.
And that, if people are interested in equality, that would be equality. Mm-hmm. Because it would mean that every single transaction, trade, exchange, monetary or otherwise, would be done from a basis of mutual need. Now, it's not where we are. That is not where we are, but it is where we might be one day.
Mm-hmm. Okay, excellent. So there are, despite the potential end of Western civilization, maybe that's a good or a bad thing. It's there's certainly some good things that come out of it if people start to make better decisions for themselves.
Well, we'll have to make better decisions for ourselves. The people that want to do this, of course, many people will not want to and will not care. Hence the previous hypothesis that actually technology will probably enforce blanket decisions. But there'll be plenty of people that will just check out from that. They already are. And the solution then is to find out what you're good at and do it a lot and major on that. And specialize, really, and if you've got multiple specialisms, well, all the better, but specialize as much as you can, because somebody somewhere will want what you've got to offer. Somebody somewhere will want it. And by being, so that's being individual. By being the individual in that way, you become valuable.
And very specifically, there's a big thumbs up to entrepreneurship there. Starting your own business, producing your own income, right? Using that as a vehicle for your own personal growth.
Absolutely.
Okay. Excellent. All right.
So it seems, sorry, one more thing if I can. So it seems like, at first, when you try to encounter this idea, it seems like individuality and going it alone and doing your own thing and checking out of society and entrepreneurship and solo and self-sovereignty, that seems like it's somehow less. It seems like you've lost something. You know, we were part of a group, society, collective, and we were stronger together and blah, blah, blah. And now we've pulled out of that and it's somehow less. I think it's exactly the opposite. I think it is precisely the opposite of that. Mm-hmm. It is more. Mm-hmm. Not at first, but it is ultimately more. Mm-hmm. Because in society as we have it now, it is all about rub off the edges of your individuality, make yourself into a drone. Mm-hmm. There is no satisfaction, there is no happiness, there is no fulfillment, there is no meaning in turning yourself into a drone. Mm-hmm. So checking out from that nonsense seems like we're losing something. So you see these clips online where police are requiring people to, or members of staff are requiring people to show a vaccine passport in McDonald's. We go, oh, this is absolutely terrible. Well, of course it is terrible, but actually, this is surely a good thing, because I don't want to be in McDonald's. I shouldn't be in McDonald's. McDonald's is no good. I shouldn't be there. So if I have to check out from that system, I'm losing the opportunity to go to McDonald's. Yeah, okay, that is bad, but actually, maybe that's not a loss.
No. Mm-hmm. Okay.
If it forces me then to go in a better path of health.
Yes, indeed. That highlights for me, though, that there's going to be this one form or another, an apartheid of people who are choosing to go to McDonald's and to have to take all the rules and restrictions in order to get their Big Mac, and the other people who go in the opposite direction. And I hope there's a way to avoid that unhealthy individualism and that warfare between the groups. Like you said last time, hopefully the majority of people are somewhere in between, live and let live type people.
Well, we will see, but I think the deeper question in the McDonald's scenario is, what am I doing going in McDonald's in the first place?
Yeah.
Deeper than that, why does McDonald's even exist in the first place? Because in any functional, sane, healthy, constructive, positive, connected society, McDonald's wouldn't exist.
No.
It wouldn't exist. There wouldn't be such a thing. That, to me, is the more interesting, deeper question.
Okay. Well, that is perhaps a question for another time then. Okay. Well, thank you very much for your time as always, Richard. Very enlightening, and look forward to more conversations. Cheers.
Take care.